recently started an initiative focused around men's mental health. Why do I really want to help men so much? It's not that I just want to help the man. I know if I help the man, I help the whole family. So by helping one, I can help a whole generation.
Hello, we're so glad you're joining us for another episode of the Global Indian Creatives podcast, which is shining a light on the stories of British Indians who have made waves in the creative industry. If you're enjoying our series, leave us a comment as we'd love to hear from you. And hit subscribe to be notified as soon as the episode releases.
Our next guest has used his creative skills to pursue a meaningful purpose. Naroop Jhooti's journey began on music video sets before moving on to major campaigns with global brands which include Adidas and Puma. From building a studio from the ground up, he is now co-founder of the content and strategy agency Back the Brave. In 2014, he launched the Singh Project with Amit Amin, a collection of 35 portraits celebrating the identity of British Sikh men, becoming a book called Turbans and Tales. Later, the project expanded as the Sikh Project to include exhibitions in the US and portraits of both men and women.
Now, beyond his agency work, Naroop is using his storytelling to address men's mental health through his platform, The Dad Project, which shares powerful stories of men to open conversations and empower others. While he's usually telling others' stories, today we hear from him. You started as a photographer and you've been working with really big brands. Tell us about that and what it was like breaking into that industry and some of the highlights.
To be honest, it is very, very difficult. When Amit and we have been working together for 22 years. When we wanted to get into advertising, it was almost felt like it was impenetrable because no brand and no advertising agency would commission you if they hadn't had work that they could see that you had done for another big brand or agency. So you're kind of in this situation where you know you're good enough to do it and you want to do it, but you haven't got anything to show them that they can look at and think, actually, they can handle a big budget. And we had been working in music for a good 4 or 5 years, and mainly urban music. So the artists we photographed were rappers, R&B stars, some pop stars, but even the pop music was more on the urban side. So for us to now go and work in the advertising industry, where we're looking to get commissioned for really mainstream global campaigns, for the art buyer and the agency to look at our work and then try to translate it to what they wanted to create was actually quite difficult. But what happened for us, which is why I've always said, respect everybody you work with, is a makeup artist friend of ours actually got in touch and said, hey guys, my friend is an art director. He's got a big shoot for Huawei, the brand, and the photographer is unwell. And the shoot was in 2 days. I suggested you guys to him and he's up for it. And so we jumped in. And that was our first introduction into advertising. And the shoot went incredible. It was actually a really big shoot for a first advertising shoot. It was a 4-day shoot across London, different locations over 4 days. But that also really benefited us because we now had a really beautiful piece of work to show other ad agencies that we've created not only an ad campaign, but a sizable campaign that went on billboards. It went on buses, tubes, everywhere. So for Amit and I to look at this work that we had created, knowing that really the only time we'd ever seen our work was on CD covers and in magazines and on websites, to now literally be standing there like, oh, you shot that, was incredible.
But you didn't come from a photography background, did you? Because you and Amit kind of learnt the skills yourself and set up your own studio. So it was a lot of self-skilling and using the resources you had to get to where you ended up.
Our journey is actually really, I find it inspiring just telling it again because it's felt like the universe wanted to make it happen. I had left my father's company. And when I say left, the company went bankrupt. So I had no choice but to move on. Unfortunately, it was my dream to work with my dad. Amit had left uni after a year because he just didn't like the system. He didn't fit into it. He didn't like the course. So we were both looking for an opportunity, something to do. My brother got signed to a music label. He must have been 23, I was 21. And I was thinking, what am I going to do? Music looks fun. How can I get into music? I can't sing like my brother, but maybe I can manage an artist. I had a friend of mine who was a Hindi singer. And I said, look, dude, I'm going to manage you. And he said, Naroop, you know nothing about music management. And I said, look, my brother's got signed. I am going to copy whatever his managers do for him, I'm going to do for you. It's a simple formula. For a young 21-year-old, it was flawless, like perfect, right? The first thing they did for him was to have a photo shoot. for my brother. So I said to my friend, look, let's get a photo shoot done. We need to get some pictures. We need to show the people how amazing you look. I wasn't a photographer then, but Amit's dad was a budding, aspiring photographer, and he had actually bought the first digital camera, a Fuji camera. Again, this really helped us because shooting on film is quite a big barrier to entry sometimes because it's a real art form. If you don't understand film and processing, and the fact that you can't see what you're shooting straight away can block some people entering into photography. But we had the first digital camera and it was expensive, but Amit's dad had bought it. Now I had spoken to Amit's dad and said, can you please take some photos of my friend? And I'd planned it all out, booked him a week in advance. And obviously I wasn't going to pay him, but I booked out his time. Turned up at the house, he opens the door and he's literally like in, just in his normal home clothes, not ready to go out and shoot. And I'm like, uncle, I've got my mate here, we're meant to go. And he goes, where are we going? I said, for the photo shoot. And he wasn't ready. Amit literally walked into the passageway behind his dad, almost like just over his shoulder. And he goes, I'll do it. And I was like, what? And he's like, I'll do the shoot for you. And he had been testing the camera out because he had also been thinking, what else can I do? And so from that moment, Amit and I teamed up and we did this photo shoot for my friend. And the chemistry was natural. And I had always been creative, always wanted to work in the creative industries, didn't know how. Amit enjoyed talking to people and was also very creative. And coming together on this shoot created a really strong bond because it was built around fun, excitement, adventure, desire, a purpose to try to do something of our own because we both wanted to work for ourselves. And from there, Amit and Naroop was born and we taught ourselves. But Amit's dad also guided us along the way because he had the equipment. We used Amit's parents' living room as our first makeshift studio. And his dad would guide us. His dad taught me Photoshop, how to edit, taught us how to use lighting. But then it was up to us to experiment. And we started to develop a very different style than his dad would have photographed. And it was just trial and error. Testing, fun. We used to jump over into warehouses, car parks, like wherever you think we could do, rooftops, we would go and just shoot. And we would shoot every single day. We would find somebody somewhere to photograph. And it was always inspiring models, singers, dancers, whatever it was. People who needed portfolios and we didn't charge them anything. Just wanted to get the word out. These two guys called Amit and Naroop were doing their thing. And that's how we were born.
That's incredible. You spoke about learning on the job, which you've obviously done extremely well. How have you navigated a industry such as the creative industry, which is always changing? What is relevant today could be different to what's relevant tomorrow. How do you go about navigating that change?
So in the early stage of our career, that didn't really happen. It was kind of just stayed the same. People wanted big commercial campaigns. Usually it was built around one master hero image and maybe a few extra images which they may use. As time went on and stuff became more and more digital, and with the invention of the iPhone and social media, that's when everything changed because now the needs of an agency and a brand were totally different. One, you had to also be able to direct. You had to be able to do moving image, we call it film. So now a campaign would be not only stills, photography, but it'd also be film. And on the day, it wouldn't be just one hero image. It would be, we want 20 images because, we want to use one for a billboard. Then we got social media. We need them square, portrait, this, that. So there's so many variables of what we needed to create and we needed to shoot film. Luckily, when I was around 28, so about 6-7 years into the Amit and Naroop journey, I had a desire to start directing. And I started off doing music videos. And it all started being on set, shooting a single cover for an artist. And I was looking at the director and I was like, he's basically doing what I'm doing, but his camera is recording moving images and we're doing still images. But the process is still the same. And I was looking for an opportunity to start directing. And that's when, as it happens, a week later, a friend of mine who was a music artist, but also a friend, said to me, Naroop, I want to get a music video done. Do you know any directors? And I was like, mate, I'll do it for you. And he goes, okay, show me what you've done. And I was like, I haven't got anything to show. Nothing, not a student film. You couldn't shoot on an iPhone. There was zero content to show him. I said, but I really want to do it. He said to me, I trust your work. I know how good you guys are at photography. I want you to do it. Now I'm thinking he's got about £500. I said, what's your budget? He said £15,000. And so I had 3 months to try to create this music video with him. And I had never shot anything. Luckily, I had friends in the industry. So one of my friends, Dave Miller, was a DOP, a cameraman. He helped me through a lot of the technical stuff of what I'd need because we were going to shoot in a studio. So he handled a lot of that. I focused on the creative idea. What do I want to create? And what I did was to work backwards. I watched hundreds of music videos and dissected them and start to understand how these directors put a music video together, there's certain shots that they would put together: a wide shot, a mid shot, a tight shot. There's what we call B-roll or cutaways, additional shots that give a texture to the environment. You want to get close-ups of dancers' faces, and you want to get details, you want to create emotion. So I basically taught myself over a 4-month period how to put a music video together. And then on the day of the shoot went great. Music video came out amazing. It was difficult, I'm not going to lie, especially when I found out that the money he had used for the music video was left to him by his dad in his will after he had passed away. So it was a lot of pressure knowing that I'm literally got this guy's dreams in my hands. And I lost a lot of weight. I couldn't eat. I had this knot in my stomach for weeks. I would literally eat a banana a day. There was so much nervousness about it that I don't want to fail this guy. And I really want to create something special. But from that music video, I got signed to the UK's biggest music video reps. So now I had an agent after my first video. And the second video I did was for Miss Dynamite. And she was a massive artist and still is a really respected artist. So I kind of went from here to here, but I loved it. And I still miss it very much because doing music videos is so much fun. It feeds here a lot, but it doesn't really feed the pocket. And I think at the stage I'm at now, I have my priorities a little bit different. But for a good 5-6 years, I really, really enjoyed that industry.
I think there you've touched again on learning skills yourself and learning really how to be at the top of what you're doing, but also about collaboration and the importance of people. Moving on to where you are now today and the work that you're doing, you're not only collaborating with people with your Back the Brave agency, but also reaching out to people online through your social media and your Instagram videos. So tell us about that and the importance of people and collaboration and creativity.
So the agency was born out of this idea of trying to have greater impact with the skills that we had. What I found frustrating about us being a creative duo as Amit and Naroop is that our impact wasn't as great as I'd wanted it to be. We worked for ourselves, obviously, but we had our agents, and the agents were contacted by the advertising agency who represented the brand. So if you think of the chain, that we're just one in the long chain of people, we could never influence the decision maker at the brand because we had to go through the agent. We wouldn't even be able to talk directly to the agency. We had to go through our agent. And so the impact we had was minimal. We'd do a campaign for them. Yes, the images would look great, but there's nothing more we could do past that. If we want to then speak to the brand and say, look, we've also got these ideas, or let's build a long-term relationship and create something great together, we weren't able to do that. And I think as our career went on, that became increasingly frustrating for us, that we've got all these skills, but yet we're not able to fully put them to their potential. And so then we created our own agency called Back the Brave, and we call it a courageous agency. Basically, what we do is we help brands, businesses grow. And we all know content is king. It doesn't matter if you're a builder to a dentist to a really creative business in the arts or something else, you always need content. So now what we do is we create content for people, but we also then give them the strategy to use it. How can you now use this content to actually help your business and grow your business? That in itself creates a really good relationship where they work with us for extended periods of time, years, if not longer. But then the other thing that we do on top is to help them scale the business. So if the business now wants to raise some capital, we can help them do that. We can help position the business to make them attractive for investment and actually go out and get the money and bring it to them. And that's part of the service. So we're still creative, but now we've got this whole other side which has massive impact. And it's really rewarding seeing a brand and business grow. And it's not about, let's try to make you as much money as you can. There's something really empowering about seeing the individuals grow, seeing the founder grow. Everyone has this idea that a CEO and a founder is this super confident, really powerful individual. Really, a lot of the time, they're quite lonely and they're a little bit insecure. And sometimes they have this complex that, this imposter syndrome. And they need people around them sometimes just to work with them, because anything you do in life, and I'm sure you guys may be able to relate, when you're forging your own path, it can get lonely because for you, it's just an idea here. And who else can see the world the way you see it? Not a lot of people. So if we can come and build a team and share the vision with these founders and these people, say, look, we get it. We understand what you want to do. Let's share it with everybody. We become an integral part of the team and we become friends. And you start to get recommended. So it's a beautiful way of working because it's based on sincerity and being honest and wanting to help. But then it's also, you see the impact and you see what you've created. I think about it sometimes, 10 years down the line, the amount of businesses and brands we would have helped them grow and create so much transformational change. is going to be really rewarding. And I think that really stays true to my growth as a man too, where when I was younger, it was creative. Let's make cool stuff. Let's go and shoot. Let's make it cool. Now it's like, yeah, I want to do that. But I also want to leave a legacy and leave a lasting impression on people and create change and help people. So we call it courageous, a courageous agency. We call it Back the Brave, because only the brave can really go out and do what they really want to do and achieve their goals. So that's the agency. And in terms of the content that I do on Instagram and stuff, I'm really passionate about helping people. I can't even tell you why I care so much. But for me, when I see someone who's not reaching their potential, fulfilling their potential, something in here says, come on, what are you waiting for? Like, we've got one shot at this thing called life. Why are you going to sit there and just not go all in? Like, what's the worst that's really going to happen? Especially if you've already had a career and you've got a CV. If you go for it and it doesn't work, guess what? I'm sure you can get another job. And so I try to inspire people through the content that I put out there. And I grow through that too. I think there's nothing more powerful than sharing your thoughts with other people, sometimes sharing your vulnerabilities with other people. Because when you start to see what comes back to you, you realize, what was I so scared about all this time? Well, why do I really care what other people think? And the beautiful thing about creating this content and why I think it's so powerful is it can be leveraged so much. You can put something out there and in the first day, guess what? It might get 100 likes, but you can share it and you never know who's seeing it. You never know how much impact that's going to have longer down the line. So it's while you're sleeping, you're still having impact on people, which I think is really powerful.
Well, you spoke about it in two parts. One, the incredible agency which built, which is supporting people, and your own pursuit in helping other people. How did you convince your parents to pursue a creative talent? Could you tell us a bit about that journey?
I do give a lot of credit to my parents for where I am and where my brother is. We both have basically followed our dreams. We both never really had a job apart from a summertime job at the airport or like Next or River Island, right? I've never had a job interview, but they never wanted us to do the conventional thing. And my dad, especially, has been the biggest dreamer. You know, he had his business. And it's interesting. And I only really thought about this the other day. My dad had his business, a multi-million-pound company. The year I started working with him, it went bankrupt. So here's a man who had an empire, who is now starting from ground zero. And I was also starting from ground zero. And my brother had just got signed to his record label at the same time. So I think what my father saw in us, he also saw in himself. This desire to rebuild and to chase your dreams. And why should anyone tell you any different? Had he been hugely successful and had all this money and all this opportunity, and I then wanted to go and pursue something different, he may have said something to me. I don't think he would have, but he may. But he always said to me, Naroop, I'll never tell you what to do or who to marry. There are the two things. As a man, you must make those decisions for yourself. And so he supported us. And what I love about my parents, my mum and my dad, is not once, and I'm not lying, in my whole journey did they say to me, Naroop, do you think you're doing the right thing? Not once. How's it going, son? Great. I'm sure it'll work out. Even now, when I tell dad about stuff, guess what? This happened. You know, and we're always trying new things. I'm sure it'll work out, son. Keep going. I'm proud of you. So it's that affirmation, constantly affirming that we're doing the right thing, believing, telling us. And I think that's really powerful. But it does take a certain mindset, especially being brown. When I speak to other aspiring creatives or people who just want to do something different, I always ask them how your family feel about it. Because if you haven't got the family support, it can be difficult. Because you yourself are going through a difficult time trying to prove to yourself that you can do this thing. But to have others who you love doubt you is a really heavy weight to carry. So I think it's really important that, you know, you need to have your parents or have a conversation with your parents and say, look, you know, I want to do this, please support me. But I was very fortunate to have that support, and it strengthened my ability to achieve what I have achieved.
On that note, because I think you've mentioned about other people, and I think when you're creative and you're creating work and you're putting content out there and your thoughts and your vulnerabilities, there can be that fear of what people think. And you've obviously had support from your parents, your family, and the people around you. But what were some of your fears that held you back from doing what you're doing now? And how have you overcome them as advice for anyone listening, reading, or watching?
I think I never believed in the man that was lying dormant inside here. enough. I always had this belief in myself from a very young age that I'm different and I'm special. And this is a conversation probably for another time in terms of the things that I've gone through in my life that have been very unique to me. But part of me, a side of me, has always said, Naroop, you're different, man. My name in itself, Naroop, there's no one else really called Naroop in the world. And I know that might seem quite a small thing to some people, but to me, I look for signs and I believe in the universe telling me certain things. So I always believed I was different, but I never had the environment to express my true potential. And I honestly think, and I can only speak for men really being a man, that our greatest change comes through adversities. Our greatest change comes through challenges. There's no growth in comfort. And so as I grew as a man and faced different challenges in my life, I got stronger and I also opened up and I realized, what do I really want? And before, in my younger years, I think a lot of it was a bit of ego. It's really powerful being on set, being a director, being a photographer, when everyone's asking for your direction and your command, and you see everyone is looking at you. There's a sense of importance, but I think it's like a false sense. It's an illusion of grandeur, because really, what impact are you having apart from those people? But when I shifted that to saying I actually want to help others, this is not about me. I may have to be the conduit. I may have to be the person that is seen to be saying this stuff, but I really want to impact others. And this is not about, wow, Naroop, look how much you're doing and pat me on the back. It's about me patting others on the back and saying, well done. That opened up a side of me that lay dormant and has made me feel stronger. And the more I help others, the more I feel that this is resonating and vibrating with what I really want to do. I think that's been the change, but that came with time and as experiences. And you can't rush that. And anybody that tries to rush it, I don't think is being genuine to themselves, because we were all on our own path. Some paths to success or wherever you want to achieve and whatever success may be are much shorter. Some are much longer. But I don't think that should be rushed. I think it should be embraced. And I think we all should look for every day, what have I done today and what are my learnings from today? And for me, it was this long journey. And I'm really proud of where I am now. I love the work that I do and I love who I am because I realize what I can do for now for people.
That leads beautifully to the final question. What's next for you?
What's next is to continue loving and living life. I think that's the first thing. I'm not going to put a 10-year plan and live to that restriction. But what I would like to be able to continue doing day after day is building our agency, scaling it and growing it. Back to Brave. I've got a film production company with my brother and two other people. We'll be making TV shows and documentaries. I want them to all happen because, you know, I'm a creative. I work in visuals. My heart is in that. And I've always wanted to make TV shows, movies, etc. And then I've also recently started an initiative focused around men's mental health, starting with single fathers of color and trying to break the stigma that if you're a single father of color, that you are in some way absent from the child's life and that you only want to see the kid every other weekend for a day, and that fathers aren't good parents and can't handle children by themselves. And I'm trying to break that stigma and empower single fathers initially to help them and guide them through the experiences that I've gone through in my life, being a single dad at the moment. But the plan is for that is to scale it into a men's mental health organization, focusing on self-improvement, mental health, physical health, financial health, generally a place where a man can come who wants to create change in their life. And the reason why I'm so passionate about that, again, this was a revelation only the other day, is that why do I really want to help men so much? It's not that I just want to help the man. Is I know if I help the man, I help the whole family. Because if I can make the man better, I can probably make his relationship with his wife better if they're still married. Or if they're a single father, I can make the relationship better with their child and with their co-parent and create a more beautiful environment for them all to live in. So by helping one, I can help a whole generation. And I think that is partly what fuels what I'm trying to do. So that is what I'm really passionate about. And I think if I can achieve those things, I'm going to have my hands pretty full and I'll be a very happy man.
Can I quickly touch on one more thing? Because it is so important and it is such a crucial part of your career journey. Talking about once in a lifetime projects that you've been part of and curated yourself alongside Amit. is the Singh Project, and it was such a unique project. So if you can talk to us about that.
The Singh Project came from this idea that we wanted to create a personal piece of work, personal meaning that we would receive no money for it, but it was about who we are, our culture, as two brown Indian photographers in an industry dominated by middle-aged white men. And our agent at the time actually said, you guys should do something about your culture. So we were looking around for ideas, and we threw so many ideas against the wall. Like, should we do a project around Southall or Southall business owners? Because we both grew up in Southall, but nothing really sounded interesting until one day when we were driving back from a shoot in Shoreditch. Bear in mind, this is 2014. We started to see loads of men of every color and age have these really long beards. It was a real fashion statement because these beards were carefully curated. And I was like, Amit, what are these guys got all these beards for, man? What's going on? And we started to realize that it was a fashion statement, it was a trend. But for our culture and our people, for Sikh men, the beard's been an integral part of their identity for hundreds of years. So we thought, why not create a project around the modern identity of the Sikh man, the turban wearing Sikh man with a beard? And so we photographed initially 5 men. Okay, one of them being my granddad, one of them being my dad's mate, because no one wanted to get involved in the beginning. It was a real struggle. We used to go to the temple, the Gurdwara, we walked around Southall, we asked family and friends. No one understood why we wanted to take portraits of Sikh men. But we had this idea. Every photograph was taken in the same lighting, a kind of shoulder, chest and up shot against the same backdrop. The idea being when we display these images is the subject that they're focusing on and you're not worried about the background. Started off as 5 images. We created a Facebook page. Bear in mind, Instagram and stuff didn't exist then. We simply wrote the Singh Project coming soon. And those images spread like wildfire. What is this all about? Where can we see more? And we were just inundated with these comments and messages. And I said to Amit, I go, dude, I think we're onto something here. This, because like, people are really into this. And so we photographed 35 images and we crowdfunded our first exhibition, raising £15,000, and put the exhibition on in the Framers Gallery in Fitzrovia in London. And from there, we got invited to City Hall, we got invited to the South Bank Centre, and eventually we got contacted by an organisation called the Sikh Coalition based in New York. Now, they wanted us to do the equivalent in America, but we had just finished the UK one and we were fatigued creatively and physically. They were persistent and they really wanted to do it because for them, unlike the project in the UK where it was a work of art because everyone understood the Sikh identity, in America, it was a work of great importance to break this idea that a man with a beard and a turban is a terrorist. Because post 9/11, Sikh men were getting persecuted, and that's why the Sikh Coalition was created, to offer free legal advice to Sikh people who are facing persecution post 9/11. And when we realized that, we're like, we've got to do it. They said, what do you guys need? And we said, look, we need to fly back and forth, obviously, from New York. We need your help with casting and getting the people, and we need you guys to raise the funds. So they raised £250,000 for us to fly back and forth to New York and put on this exhibition a year later, which was in Soho in Manhattan, in a 2-story exhibition space in the center of town. And it was phenomenal. I mean, there was no corners cut. I walked in there, looked around, I thought, I can't believe this is our work. And for 2 weeks, I was there every day speaking to people. People were crying when they read the stories. Because what we did, we had the images on display, but then we had the stories on the side. And that eventually turned into a book called Turbans and Tales. And the book was funded by the Ford Foundation. So we met the CEO at the private view of the exhibition, and they gave us £50,000 to do the book. And it wasn't even like we really asked. He goes, what do you guys want to do next? And we said, look, we want to turn this into a book. And he goes, oh, how much would that cost? And I said, about 50 grand. And he goes, oh, okay, yeah. And the next day we received an email from his PA saying the Ford Foundation want to give you the money to do the book. And we created the book. And the book now lives on as a legacy of what we created.
Because you've been talking about legacy and such highlights of your career, I wonder if you'd like to leave some final words to share with people who'll be taking in this as part of your legacy.
One thing that is missing in this world is kindness. And I think if you're going to do anything, have kindness in your heart, because I think it is so lacking in this day and age where everyone is so focused on themselves. I think the minute you turn it around and you focus on others and you have good intentions and you're nice to people, because everyone's hurting, everyone's struggling in this day and age. I fully, firmly believe that everyone has problems and we internalize everything. if you're a creative and if you're trying to do something, do it with love and passion and go for it. But those are things that people will always tell you. Believe in yourself, have passion. But I would say adopt a state of kindness. I'll just leave you with a little short story of what happened to me the other day. I was at White City House in White City, having lunch at a meeting, talking about kindness to someone I was working with. A waiter came and filled up my glass with water and said, "Excuse me, sir, I hope you don't mind me interrupting, but I just wanted to say thank you." And I was like, "What for?" And he said, 3 months ago, I was serving you dinner and it was my first day and I made a mistake and you were so nice to me and kind to me and you made me feel comfortable and reassured me that I was doing a good job, that it made the rest of the evening go so smooth on my first day, and it's really helped me in my position here as a waiter at White City House." And he goes, "I just want to say thank you for that." Now, for this waiter to remember me amongst all the people that he serves and has served in that time was quite touching, because I didn't do it with any intention other than just to make this guy feel comfortable and let him know he's doing a good job. But he had massive impact on him. And then the guy I was talking to said, "Wow, Naroop, so you really do practice what you preach." I said, "It just feels good to me to do that. It feels the right thing to do." So I would say that is something that we could all adopt in our lives. And everyone will tell us to follow our passions, go for it, don't give up. But how many people will say to you, just be kind to others? And I think success naturally comes through that.
That conversation really highlighted how you can expand your creative skills across different mediums and formats and make an impact in so many ways as a creative.
A huge thank you to Naroop Jhooti for sharing his inspiring journey with us. If you're enjoying this series, share your comments and give us a rating wherever you are listening to your podcasts. And a special thank you to the Queen Elizabeth II Commonwealth Trust for championing our aim of inspiring the next generation of talent.
Our next guest is Harp's Core, a familiar voice to many from her time on the BBC Asian Network Breakfast Show. In a candid interview, we hear how Huddersfield's Harp's Core went from an aspiring journalist to a widely admired broadcaster, DJ and presenter.
It's out in a fortnight. Subscribe on your podcast platform to be notified when it's released.